Bitcoin has just lost the 107k level as bears wrestle back control. So where does Bitcoin go from here? Let's jump in. Hi, I'm Paul with ArcisFX with your Bitcoin update for the week. So we had FOMC last week, and as a result of the data blackout due to the government shutdown in the United States, the Fed Chair Jerome Powell was forced into a more hawkish stance due to that uncertainty, meaning that there may not be now another interest rate cut in 2025, which of course has spooked the markets, which hasn't helped the situation for Bitcoin. Because as we look at this daily chart for Bitcoin, we have been watching for a candle body close below this, the daily 200 MA, to see which direction Bitcoin could be heading. And of course, if we zoom in, we can see that the bears have won this battle now, following a bit of a tussle over the last few weeks with a clear defined candle body close below the 200 MA, meaning that this area, this zone, is now in play. And if we come down pretty quickly, that could be around the 95, 96k area. And of course, nothing wrong with this, nothing wrong with coming back down here, but it does of course mean that the bulls lose the narrative for a little bit. But it's fair to say on this time frame, the loss of the daily 200 MA is a win for the bears. So as traders, we should presume more downside until we have further bullish confirmation. But there are a couple of bullish signals to trade off on some of the lower time frames, and we'll get to that shortly. But of course, the big question is it all over for Bitcoin? Is this it now? Well, no, it's not. And just to quantify that, this is Bitcoin monthly chart. This is the primary trend we've been in since, well, 2013 by the looks of it. So this is a very significant line in the sand. We were hugging this at the back end of 2022, the end of the bear market, and the kicking off of the bull market in late 2023. And it looks like we may be touching it again soon. Now, if we zoom in just to see that if the next candle is the one which touches it, then that could be a 93k Bitcoin at that point. Now, there's no guarantee that the price action is going to come down that far, but of course, the closer we get to it, the more likely that buyers are going to be waiting for an entrance at this level, meaning that it could be in for a bit of a nail-biting few weeks for Bitcoin if you can't move up quickly from here. Keep your eye on the next few candles, as this diagonal support is fast coming into focus, and it is obviously the most significant support line at the moment for Bitcoin. We're not there yet, but we could be. We're currently, just for clarification, we're currently, as of filming of this video, we're currently at around 104.5k, and that would be quite a significant move down from this point. But as you'll notice on previous occasions, back in 2022 and 2023, we didn't actually touch it, and we haven't actually touched it. If we look back, I guess this line needs to be just adjusted very slightly. We haven't really touched it since 2015, so pretty significant and historical level to be paying attention to with Bitcoin. And of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button so I can keep you updated over the next few weeks.
Hi there, I'm James. I'm the founder of ArcisFX. I'd like to personally invite you to join our 24/7 trading group. This is built for traders who want an edge. Inside, you'll get access to live calls on Forex, commodities, crypto, energies, and metals, along with exclusive daily analysis designed to unlock your trading potential. And this in both traditional and now in digital markets. I'm talking Bitcoin, crypto, altcoins, and tethered currencies. You'll gain early access to insider news, real-time updates, real-time support, and premium educational content. If you want to sharpen your skills and boost your success rate, then join me and Paul in this community. This is a fast-growing community of traders who are now writing their own success stories. So don't wait. Join up now. Your edge starts right here.
But switching back to this Bitcoin 2-hour chart, we've had this head and shoulders pattern confirmed with a very clear definable move below the neckline, making there's very little ambiguity for a bear trap here. And you can see the measured move from this pattern taken from the head to the neckline is essentially pointing towards 100k on this chart. And of course, this is a lower low compared to the previous dip, which we had on the 17th of October. So no reason to think the bulls can wrestle back control based on this chart. And 100k looks like it's fast approaching. You know, there are, of course, support levels below us at around 102k, which is this line here, this fib level. But ultimately, seeing as we've had such a strong pattern break, I think 100k is quite likely at this point, at least until we see something different. So we've had that candle body close below the daily 200 MA. We've had the confirmation on the lower time frame of this head and shoulders pattern, which of course is bearish. And of course, on this, the daily chart, it looks like we could be heading down to at least 100k over the next few weeks, unless we see something different. And based again on the monthly chart, this area between 100k and around 93 looks like it's on the cards at the moment, based on the TA of these charts. But of course, there are other perspectives to pay attention to, like this one. So this is Bitcoin versus gold. This is James's chart, which I have copied and co-opted. Bitcoin, let's just correct like that, Bitcoin versus gold daily. Now, the most important thing to recognize here that if we're looking at Bitcoin through the lens of the US dollar, then we have it's quite a narrow view in terms of its potential. So we're looking at Bitcoin versus the dollar. It is a roller coaster ride. We do get these phases where the bears take control. It can be a little bit nerve-wracking, but when we look at Bitcoin when compared to other assets, potentially more relevant assets for Bitcoin, like gold, then we can see it's a slightly different narrative. So we have this diagonal support line below, and of course, if Bitcoin bounces from here, it'll be outpacing gold again, and we have got this nice little pocket coming in here at around 25.25. So if we do get a move back down into this pocket and Bitcoin can hold it, that would be a higher low following this low, which would mean a bounce is increasingly likely on this chart. So the Bitcoin versus gold chart is giving us a little bit of an insight in what we could expect from Bitcoin. And this, of course, is an ascending triangle, which is a bullish pattern. Now, obviously, this is all happening in slow motion, and any break from here would be obviously extremely bullish, but we're not quite there yet, of course, because we're right at the bottom of the pattern. Now we need to, of course, break out from here. But the Bitcoin versus gold chart is giving us a sign that we could, with a little bit more of a dip from Bitcoin, we could then have a rally from here. But with the bears focusing on the US dollar, it's going to be interesting to see how Bitcoin reacts to this lower level. So keep your eye on that. But also trying to search for a little bit more of a bullish narrative from the traditional Bitcoin versus dollar charts. This is Bitcoin 1 hour, and we do appear to have a double bottom forming on the RSI, despite this strong downtrend which Bitcoin is in. And if you actually look, here is your market cycle bell curve completed. So you would expect a little bit of consolidation and then an attempt to turn around again based on this very simple concept. And of course, the fact that we have the 1 week 50 MA, aside from this primary trend line, which we were just looking at on the monthly charts, the 1 week 50 MA is the second most significant inflection point for Bitcoin. And if we do follow it back down, if I just switch this to the 1 day chart, just so we have a bit of perspective, you can see how the 1 week 50 MA has been supporting the price action since the start of this bull cycle, essentially. So we don't want to lose that. But the reason why I'm highlighting this to you, of course, is it's a great place for buyers to gather. And the closer we get to that, and we are very close to that, currently the 1 week 50 MA is currently hovering around 102.5K, meaning that if we're looking at charts like this, when 100K is coming into focus, we actually have the 50 MA fast coming in to support the price action. So if we do go back to this Bitcoin 2 hour chart and we add that moving average on there, we can get a better perspective on there's something wrong with this chart. There's something very wrong with this chart. It's not showing my indicators. I noticed that yesterday. Fun times. But if we just put this on, let's make it red because the 50 is always red in my book. You can see here it is coming straight in. So measure move, this head and shoulders pattern is 100K, but we have this extremely important support line in the shape of the weekly 50 MA coming in not far below where we are. We're currently at around, as I said, 104.5 at the time of filming, and this is around 102.5. So there's only 2K to go essentially. So you can't have this pattern complete without losing the 50 MA. Now, the interesting thing about this pattern is we have entered this head and shoulders pattern from the upside, right? And this is typically a topping pattern. So you could look at this with a little bit of skepticism simply because of the way we've entered the pattern, instead of coming from the upside and this being a reversal following a run up. There's a lot of ambiguity at the moment. There's a lot of confusion, but you can see there is a bullish narrative fast approaching in the form of this moving average acting as support. And of course, because it is the higher time frame moving average, it does carry more significance than this lower time frame pattern. So it is going to be a very interesting next few days for Bitcoin. And even though, of course, we can look at these candle body closes and we can look at these areas as a very legitimate area for Bitcoin to come to, again, if we add the 50 back onto this chart, it actually is very soon going to be acting as support for the price action. And you can see, there you go, nice and flush, very little dip there into that pocket. So it's a very interesting picture for Bitcoin at the moment. But if you step back to that gold chart, you can see that this lines up a little bit more with the 50 MA on the dollar charts, the dollar pair charts acting as support. So very mixed picture. But when we're looking at multi-time frame analysis, the 1 hour chart has less significance than the weekly chart as an example. And this moving average is much more significant than even the 1 day 200 MA. So the 1 week 50 MA is the area to watch, because ultimately, if we can't hold that moving average, if we can't hold this, then 100K is on the cards. But here's the thing, if we lose the 50 MA, it's going to be very difficult to look at 100K as a reversal point, because then this is going to be acting as resistance, and it will be the first time we've lost it in over a decade. So super serious level, and if it does break, then maybe coming down here to 96K is the least of our worries, because bearing in mind this pattern, this is a rising channel, which of course has a 70 to 80% chance of a break to the downside. So we lose the 50 MA on the weekly chart, this red line here, we then may come back down to this lower part of the pattern, but there's no guarantee we're going to bounce from there, because the 50 is then going to act as resistance. So potentially what we could see is a loss of the 50 MA, we come back up and essentially bearishly retest it. Bulls can't get above, we lose the pattern, and then these lower areas like 74k fast come into focus. So I would say over the next few days and the next week or so, we really need to be paying attention to this Bitcoin monthly primary trend and paying attention to how the price action interacts with this, the weekly 50 MA. And if we do just go back to this primary trend here, and let's just put on, for clarity's sake, that same moving average again. I'm sorry, you've seen me put this moving average on multiple charts. Now it's a little bit, it's not exactly entertaining watching me do this. So here we go. And there you go. There it is, the 50 MA currently acting as support to the price action. So, we need to be paying attention to these areas. And you can see the reason why Bitcoin monthly hasn't actually tapped these levels recently, or at least not since the start of the bull cycle around September 2023, is because the 50 MA has been acting as support. If we lose that, the last line in the sand is this primary trend. So it is a very interesting time for Bitcoin at the moment, but those are the lines in the sand to watch. But of course, Bitcoin versus gold is giving us a slightly more bullish picture. And if this double bottom on the 1 hour chart does give us a little bit of a relief following the fact that we have had a bit of a reset, hopefully we could see the bulls start to come in here on the back of this. So one would hope that the government shutdown could be resolved this week, and that will give a little bit of bullish fervor for the markets, and then Bitcoin can act of these small bullish signals we've got, like this double bottom, and the very fact that we've got a lot of these very key support lines fast coming into focus, and then hopefully we'll have a bounce from there. But that's it for now. I'm Paul with ArcisFX. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop us a comment. I'll be back Thursday for your altcoin gems, and Friday for my weekly live stream where you can ask questions, get me to check out tokens you're thinking of trading, and see how Bitcoin is doing at the back end of the week. Where do you think Bitcoin will be at the back end of the week? Let us know in the comments. Also, if you're not already in our private group, you can check out the link in the description, as would love to have you. But I'll also be doing a members only live stream with James tomorrow. So if you want to join us for that, make sure you join us as a member on YouTube. I think it's only a couple of dollars. As again, would love to have you. Catch you in the next one.